Just a moment here. Come on. Do your thing. Or not. Why aren't you connecting? Or maybe we're not going to start now.
What is this sound?
What?
What is this sound?
What sound?
An extra noise.
Probably Alex with his mouth open.
No, no.
And it's probably the TV.
Oh.
Oh, no, hang on. Is that any better?
Oh, okay.
What? Is that better
Okay.
now?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, I parked the camera on the other end. Okay, is it going to do something, or am I just... All right. Oh, great. Greetings, ladies and germs. Lord Croc Squirrel here. Sorry about the delay, folks. We've been having some technical difficulties all afternoon, and we may actually start having another one here shortly. Let me just grab something here real quick. Make sure that I've got something that... Make sure I've got some shit that isn't doing that's doing something other than what it's supposed to. All right, hopefully this doesn't kill everything. So, apparently we've been up for a couple of minutes now, and we weren't quite aware of it. Let me just finish getting things. All right, is it still running? No, it's still working. It's got something else to get here. All right. As you can no doubt see, we've got some Anita Sarkeesian for you today. We did her most recent video here not too terribly long ago, and what we're gonna do here is we're gonna start from the beginning, and when we get back to where we started from, we stop.
So, she looks so pretty in this picture.
Doesn't she just? This was actually this is a still taken from her most recent video. This is the type of still that I've seen quite a bit of. But we're not being petty. Oh no. We're actually going to dig into something here.
Actually, it's my fault. I took the screenshot.
I wasn't going to tell them. That was all you. Oh wait. Okay.
It's my responsibility.
Yep. Okay. So we're just gonna push this off to the side for the time being, and we're gonna jump right into the video. Yeah, you guys ready for this one, chat? Come on, chat. All right. Now, rules of this are fairly simple. We're gonna start playing. We're gonna start playing the video. Catherine, you're welcome to say stop at any time, or I may do it myself. If you see something we want to comment on, try and keep comments short, just a minute or two. And we might actually get through this sometime tonight.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, we shall get the Haze Grave underway. One of the apparently repeated iterations of that one thing just really does a number on RAM. Everything seems to be working just fine now. Yeah, the desktop manager was going a tad nuts. All right. So, begin. We're only going to do the first part of Damsels in Distress this time. We will do part 2 next time. Hey, welcome aboard, Bacon Pump Jane. How you been? All right. Anything you want to say about this? About this beforehand? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Anything you want to say about this beforehand?
No, let's go. Let's go get her.
Let's go get us some Nitas, okay? We're hunting the wild and woolly Nita. This is probably the worst part of the whole. This is one of the worst parts of the entire film. Kickstarter paid $168,000, almost $169,000 for this. Because this was really spiffy intro sequence. It's the only real difference between this and the way she did them before. I might go after those later.
Welcome to our multi-part video series exploring the roles and representations of women in video games.
Funny, I don't feel very welcome.
This project will examine the tropes, plot devices, and patterns most commonly associated with women in gaming from a systemic, big-picture perspective.
Okay, systemic big picture. Does this sound like I'm going to tell you something and you just have to shut up because it's systemic?
Yeah, systemic. All her claims are only based on her personal bias. There is not a single study to corroborate any of the data that she's been presenting since she made this video of hers in 2013.
Okay. See, the thing is, here's the other part of that. She's talking about the systemic big picture perspective, but she's not a gamer. She's not aware of what the picture actually looks like, and B, as we're going to see in the rest of this video, all 22 minutes of it, all 23 minutes of it, excuse me, which is 38 seconds. She spends the entire video picking on the little shit. Okay.
She actually shows a picture of hers when she was a kid playing a game.
That is not evidence, and we have no idea who that kid. But we don't know who that kid is. We don't have any idea where she was at the time. Nothing. We have a chunk. There's a chunk of video running around the internet that actually tells us that yes, this is exactly where she in her own words tells us she is not a gamer. Okay.
Yeah, and there's also something about another video or a picture, I'm not sure, where she uses some other people's stacks of videos to take a shot.
Actually, that is this group. That is this entire series today.
Mm.
She spends very little time doing her own gameplay, and only then when she's mucking about with the camera. This here, she grabs screenshots. She grabs chunks of video from all over YouTube to do this, rather than play the games herself. This project was originally supposed to be 5 videos, which through stretch goals was extended to 13. And actually, it wasn't 5 videos; it was 5 topics, of which she has done 3. Out of 13 total topics, she got Damsels in Distress, Ms. Male Character, and one other before she kind of went off the rails. We're still waiting for the fighting fuck toy, Anita. You are not getting out of that video. Actually, you probably are. because your backers have let you off a million times over, and they gave you $168,000. I mean, what the fuck is this shit? Not only that, but after Gamergate started, they gave you another $750,000, and just recently, they gave you another $200,000 to do post production on this other series that you're working on, where you get to play dress up. What is this shit? Big picture perspective. I don't know what you call yourself a pop culture critic. I don't think you know what any of those words mean. I really don't.
This series will include critical analysis of many beloved games and characters.
Critical analysis. Line number, what, 7 are we up to now? I should start a counter. Except that I don't have one handy.
But remember that it's both possible and even necessary to simultaneously enjoy media while also being critical of its more problematic or pernicious aspects.
Problematic or pernicious. These are two very large words for most people.
Yeah.
And if you use words like this, they tend to think it's your intelligence. But they're wrong. Hey Adam, welcome to the stream. Disgaea, welcome. Nice to have you here. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a copy of Cumulator, so I can't really review the developer. We probably will at some point, though, Adam. That's probably going to be for later. That's probably going to be for later in the week. I have to play at least one of their games before I can review them as review games or developers.
So, without further ado, let's jump right into The Damsel in Distress.
This is the Damsel. Just a little background. The Damsel in Distress is a literary motif that has been going on since what? St. George and the Dragon is the first major one that I can think of.
I mean, she actually provides some evidence that this is some historical factor and stuff. But
unfortunately, she doesn't. Unfortunately, she's not going to give you all the information.
No.
The thing is that women can do a thing that men cannot, and vice versa.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Women can give birth to live young in their own genetics. Okay, through natural processes. Men can get women that way. Okay. Aside from reproduction, there's really not as much difference as a lot of people would like to think. But that childbearing aspect makes every woman valuable, as opposed to a much smaller number of men being required to maintain a gene pool. Okay, men are less risk averse because of it, because all they really have to do is get out there and they can. Is that? Yeah, the NES in the 80s. Actually, yeah. But men can impregnate as many women as he can get in his bed. So that's kind of the thing. Women have to be really picky if they're going to do something like that.
There's another factor that even now in the 21st century, there is a thing that is the wiring of a male brain and the wiring of the female brain. Male brains are wired in terms of problem solving. Not that women are not able of doing that, but women, they kind of keep thinking about the problem to get to the solution of the problem. The male brain gets straight to the solution. Women talk about the problem. A man finds a solution to the problem. It's very they have different approaches to that.
Right. Now, Bacon Pope Shane comes up with a point here. You are correct, Shane. you could actually go back and dig way back into Greek mythology for the origins of the damsel in distress. Um, St. George and the Dragon is the first known story in English of this. And in fact, we can go back even further into Mesopotamia. Um, Inanna had to be saved. Inanna got herself into a train wreck, and Enki had to get in there and save her from that. So yeah, this is a trope. This is a motif for a reason. These things did tend to happen, and you protect the women because without women you can't breed, and women are considerably more in demand. Oh, hurry back, Diane. All right. So, moving on. We're only a minute in, and and already we're seeing problems. And yes, it is possible to enjoy media and be critical of it. However, you have to realize what you're really looking for. The problem is what she's doing here is using a feminist perspective, not not a quote unquote big picture perspective. Looking at the big picture, you have to take into account all the things that go into making a game or any kind of media for that matter, and realize that all those various brain pans all have an effect, male and female both. And I don't know very many projects that don't go on with at least a couple of women on board. Okay. All the way down to the character designer for Bayonetta being a female. That was amusing.
Let's start with the story of a game that no one ever got to play. Back in 1999, game developer Rare was hard at work on a new original title for the Nintendo 64 called Dinosaur Planet. The game was to star a 16-year-old hero named Crystal as one of two playable protagonists. She was tasked with traveling through time, fighting prehistoric monsters with her magical staff, and saving the world. She was strong, she was capable, and she was heroic.
I want you to keep that in mind, because we're going to come back to that in a minute. I'm going to let her ramble on for just another few minutes, but Dinosaur Planet is not what she's actually spelling it out here as. Rare was making that game in an attempt to get Nintendo to buy them.
Who might you be, Animal Girl?
My name is Crystal.
Pretty cool, right? Well, it would have been, except the game never got released. As development on the project neared completion, legendary game designer Shigeru Miyamoto joked about how he thought it should be the third installment in his Star Fox franchise instead.
That was not a joke. And in fact, Rare, I actually got hold of the PR folks at Rare, and they informed me that in the company's history, Dinosaur Planet was actually an attempt to make a Star Fox like kind of a wander around planet-sized Star Fox game without actually owning the IP. That's where Crystal actually came from. Nintendo looked at it and said, "Wow, cool. I want to buy you now," which is really what they were headed for in the first damn place.
Over the next 2 years, he and Nintendo did just that. They rewrote and redesigned the game and released it as Star Fox Adventures for the GameCube in 2002. In this revamped version, the would-be protagonist, Crystal, has been transformed into a damsel in distress and spends the vast majority of the game trapped inside a crystal prison.
Except the bits where she's playable.
Waiting to be rescued by the new hero, Fox McCloud. The in-game action sequences that were originally built for Crystal were converted to feature Fox instead.
Which required a swap of models, and that was pretty much it. The 2 years they spent putting it together in Star Fox Adventures was refining the crystal models and rewriting the plot so that she could actually be in the game at all. What are we going to know about? What are we going to know about here, Disgaea? All right, we'll go on. We'll go on
Moving
here.
on.
Crystal is given a skimpier, more sexualized outfit.
There's that word, sexualized. Again, it's a question of they rebuilt the models for Crystal because they actually had a better tank crew on board.
Wow, she's beautiful. What am I doing?
You're being silly, Fox.
And yes, that is cheesy saxophone music playing to make sure it's crystal clear that she is now an object of desire.
No, that's cheesy saxophone music. That's cheesy saxophone music played for comedic effect. God damn.
Even while in suspended animation.
I didn't admit
To add insult to injury,
entirely.
Fox is now using her magical staff to fight his way through the game to save her.
That's because his gun isn't working very well.
The tale of how Crystal went from protagonist of her own epic adventure to the passive victim in someone else's game illustrates how the damsel in distress trope disempowers female characters.
Disempowers. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
we will have to disagree on this later, Anita.
And robs
Go
them of the
ahead,
chance to be
Handel.
heroes in their own right. The term damsel in distress is a translation of the French demoiselle en détresse. Demoiselle simply means young lady, while détresse means roughly anxiety or despair caused by a sense of abandonment, helplessness, or danger.
So women aren't allowed to be in danger or be be distressed, Anita, ever?
No, women are never in danger, and if they happen to be in danger, they will have to solve the problem by themselves, because waiting for someone to help them, and God forbid if this helper is a man, makes them damsels in distress.
Well, first off, she's actually not correctly defined the word damsel here either.
Yes.
A damsel is a young woman, usually 12 to 18-ish, usually a virgin or unmarried.
Do you know the origin of the word?
You know what? I don't, off the top of my head.
It comes from French. It's a corruption of mademoiselle. Demoiselle comes to English as damsel.
Okay. Okay.
A mademoiselle is obviously an unmarried woman, is the equivalent of miss, but it's usually a young woman. Of course, it can be an old maiden, but usually, historically, it has been used for young women.
Young women, young women or girls, as opposed to someone older. You would, for example, if you saw a woman walking around in a full suit of plate armor, you probably wouldn't think of her as a damsel.
No.
Regardless of her actual age.
Yeah.
But she can still feel fear, and she can still be in danger.
Yeah.
She can still be under duress. Okay. So that's kind of where we're at with that. She hasn't correctly defined her terms, and thus her argument is pretty much dead in the water before it even begins. But let's continue.
As a trope, the damsel in distress is a plot device.
In the United States, the damsel in distress is a Southern expression, and it obviously comes from the Southern states, and Louisiana used to belong to France.
Yes,
So that's the origin from coming from the southern states.
All right. Moving on, shall we?
Yeah.
by a sense of abandonment, helplessness, or danger. As a trope, the damsel in distress is a plot device in which a female character is placed in a perilous situation from which she cannot escape on her own and must be rescued by a male character.
Okay. First off, I've seen a number of damsel in distress stories where whoever it is was rescued by a female character. I've seen males put in those positions. So I've put males in those positions.
Usually providing the core incentive or motivation for the protagonist's quest.
Okay. Even though the word damsel is actually gendered, its definition is specific to women. Characters of both genders are done this way, and have been for a long ass time. You could actually gender flip this whole thing, and Anita would probably cheer you, unless of course she decides to whip out the Miss Male character trope, which she would probably do anyway, or the fighting fuck toy, which she still hasn't fucking defined.
In video games, this is most often accomplished via kidnapping, but it can also take the form of petrification or demon possession, for example.
Petrification, demon possession. Nope, no Greek mythology there.
Traditionally, the woman in distress is a family member or a love interest of the hero.
Okay, fair enough. That would certainly provide motivation for dude to get off his butt.
Princesses, wives, girlfriends, and sisters are all commonly used to fill the role. Of course, the damsel in distress predates the invention of video games by several thousand years. The trope can be traced back to ancient Greek mythology with the tale of Perseus. According to the myth, Andromeda is about to be devoured by a sea monster after being chained naked to a rock as human sacrifice. Perseus slays the beast, rescues the princess, and then claims her as his wife. In the Middle Ages, the damsel in distress was a common feature in many medieval songs, legends, and fairy tales. The saving of a defenseless woman was often portrayed as the raison d'être, or reason for existence, in romance tales and poems of the era, involving a knight-errant, the wandering knight adventuring to prove his chivalry, prowess, and virtue.
Okay. Once again, there's a reason these motifs exist. It's not technically a trope even. Or the reason these motifs exist.
She misses the point that is fun. It's not a trope. It's something that has to do with romance. It sells.
And what woman does not want to be swept off her feet by somebody?
Yes.
Really?
It's so beautiful. You are in danger, and that comes that handsome stranger, and it rescues you. Oh, happy end. All the stars, and they lived happily ever after.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
At the turn of the 20th century, victimized young women became the cliché of choice for the nascent American film industry, as it provided an easy and sensational plot device for the silver screen.
Yes, it did, and you are being very thin about that, Anita. There were lots of other ways. There were lots of other motifs that were commonly used. Charlie Chaplin, his films actually centered around the tramp, not the woman, not any woman in the neighborhood, with the exception of the love interest, and that woman was rarely put in a position where she was actually in any real danger. The idea here was he created a whole lot of physical slapstick comedy. Also note, in the early days in the opening days of the 20th century, the opening days of film, you had to be able to convey your message essentially through pantomime. You didn't have a fucking voice track. All the sound was produced down there in an orchestra pit at the front of the fucking theater. Okay? So you had to have concepts that were very easy to get across to an audience, or your film was gonna fucking tank. And that's the last thing you needed, especially when you were dealing with thousands of dollars of budget. which in 1901 was a fuckload of money. Okay, the average soldier in the Civil War on either side made about $3 a month. Okay, a well-heeled doctor probably brought down about $100 a month. Some of these movies ran into tens of thousands of dollars, and you still had no way to even introduce a voice track. Not until the 1930s. Well, you could overlay a voice track by 1926, but usually that was done with a separate recording that was synced. That was actually synced to the video. Usually on a gramophone or something else similar with some sort of an amplifier. The electronics didn't get good enough to start being able to put tracks directly on the film until much later. Care to try that again?
A famous early example is the 1913 Keystone Cops short Barney Oldfield's Race for a Life, which features the now iconic scene of a woman being tied to the railroad tracks by an evil mustache-twirling villain.
Because again, it's a very new medium, and you have to be able to get across what you're trying to you try to entertain these people and give them something that they can actually get a grip on without actually being able to use words, except in the occasional card which actually broke up the flow. Try again.
You have to rely
Around the
on
same time, the
rich
motif of a giant...
imaginary.
What?
They had to rely on rich imaginary.
Uh-huh. All right. She's going to talk about King Kong now, and I'm still not sure what she's got to do with video games in this juncture.
Yeah.
What she's doing here, she's making an extremely cherry-picked reach. Because if you look at the literature of the day, it was all very similar. Our movies reflect our culture, reflect our movies back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Romance novels, dime a dozen at that point, and they still are. Some of the best stuff out there, as far as ongoing profit, is romantic comedies.
It reflected even in the early science fiction writing.
Well, at that point, science fiction wasn't even really a thing. It was just going to be.
Yes, because it was cultural.
Yeah. Okay. Sci-fi wasn't even really a thing until a bit later, when people started getting interested in the idea of science. When science started to be reliable enough that you could make that and popularize enough that you could get that your average third grader could get a grip. Okay, that's science fiction. That's another topic for another day. But in this case, in these cases, you had to keep it simple, because all your profit was going to come from the smaller people, from the people before that were trying to get their news and all their other stuff from a moving picture with a recording or some idiot standing there narrating. Okay. And at this point, by 1913, they're still treating it almost like stage acting. And they're really very different things. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. Yeah, it's what's going to make the money. And a lot of quote unquote conventionalism is based thereon.
Around the same time, the motif of a giant monkey carrying away a screaming woman began to gain widespread popularity in media of all kinds. Notably, Tarzan's love interest, Jane, is captured by a brutish primate in Edgar Rice Burroughs' 1912 pulp adventure, Tarzan and the Apes. In 1930, Walt Disney used this meme in an early Mickey Mouse cartoon called The Gorilla Mystery.
Notice how it's gone from. She's used 3 different words for the same thing here, and they are not the same. She went from trope to motif, and now it's a meme.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. This is a mouthful with bullshit stunt, and we're not going. I'm not going for it. You have to listen to what she's actually. You have to listen to the individual words, because these words have meanings, and they all have different meanings. Most people know the different meanings, but they get them conflated when she does something like this, especially when she does it in rapid order the way she just did.
The imagery was even exploited by the U.S. military in this recruitment poster for World War I. But it was in 1933 that 2 things happened, which 50 years later would set the stage for the damsel in distress trope to become a foundational element in video games as a medium.
Okay. Go ahead and tell us, Nita.
First, Paramount Pictures introduced their animated series Popeye the Sailor to cinema audiences. The formula for most shorts would involve Popeye rescuing a kidnapped olive oil. Second, in March of that year, RKO Pictures releases its groundbreaking hit film King Kong, in which a giant ape abducts a young woman and is eventually killed while trying to keep possession of her.
Now I don't think that's what they were trying for there.
No.
Really, that's the thing where you probably had to have actually seen the fucking film rather than just grabbed a couple of chunks. Hey Richard, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. Welcome back, Diane. Nice to see you back again.
Fast forward to 1981, when
Okay, now we're talking about 1981. Okay, by this time, video games were already a thing in a lot of places. I remember the late 1970s, and actually seeing video games all over everywhere. Okay, some of which even involve female protagonists.
Japanese company named Nintendo entrusted a young designer named Shigeru Miyamoto with the task of creating a new arcade game for the American market. Originally, the project was conceived of as a game starring Popeye the Sailor. But when Nintendo wasn't able to secure the rights, Miyamoto created his own characters to fill the void, heavily influenced by the movie King Kong.
Okay, here is Donkey Kong, yay! That's a completely different situation, and this game was originally called Jumpman. Just so we have it. Yes, more Anita, because there is never enough time to hammer this shit home properly.
The game's hero Jumpman was tasked with rescuing a damsel named the Lady after she's carried off by a giant ape. In later versions, she's renamed Pauline. Although Donkey Kong is perhaps the most famous early arcade game to feature the damsel in distress, it wasn't the first time Miyamoto employed the trope. 2 years earlier, he had a hand in designing a 1979 arcade game called Sheriff. In it, a vague female-shaped collection of pixels, referred to as the Beauty, must be rescued from a pack of bandits. The hero is then rewarded with a smooch of victory for his bravery in the end.
And this comes down to exactly what we were talking about a little while ago with the early movies. By this time, the damsel in distress has almost completely disappeared from film. You still got it occasionally, but it wasn't nearly as common. You're actually starting to see women in much stronger roles in movies. Now moving on to video games. The video games have now had nearly 50 years themselves to from this to kind of mature, and you're starting to see more, and you're seeing more and more and more complex plots as the technology improves. If you have a limited amount of space and a limited amount of capability to actually explore what you're trying to accomplish, then you're going to go for the thing that your player is going to understand the most with the limited amount of resources you have available to you. What she neglects to mention is the technology for this particular era was complete crap. You should be shocked that they even got the damn things running at that point. Okay, and this game here was actually pretty high res for its day. So, shall we try again, Miss Anita?
A few years later, Miyamoto recycled his Donkey Kong character designs. Pauline became the template for a new damsel named Princess Toadstool, and Jumpman became a certain very famous plumber.
But of course, I had to go through that. Because she had to go. She did this one here, I think, actually almost for just cheap effect. I don't even know where she. This is not the video game. This is an anime that was done years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's after Mario became popular.
Princess Peach is in many ways the quintessential stock character version of the damsel in distress.
Bullshit. There you go, doing that eye thing again.
Yeah.
First off, Peach's kingdom has not completely fallen apart. So at some point, on some level or another, she has to be strong she has to be at least politically strong, or her kingdom would have been puffed by long before she could have ever been kidnapped. Okay, by Bowser or any fucking buddy else. Think about this for a minute.
Why would
Just because she's
all
not
the time? Why would she be kidnapped all the time if she didn't have any value?
She has to have some kind of value, and that's kind of where that comes from. Is that this person is valuable because she's an able administrator. She's running this kingdom by her fucking self because her advisors are all mushrooms. You know, they're kept in the dark and get shit thrown on them. They don't know what's going on any more than anybody else does. The place doesn't work without her.
And maybe her dress is pretty instead of the, oh my God, of the plain shirt that Anita is wearing.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, Richard. Super Mario Brothers Super Show and that anime movie, they were in fact aimed at children. So were these friggin' games, and so were these games. They were aimed at children. They were toys.
Yeah.
They were friggin' toys. They were there to occupy children while adults did adult things. Okay? So you gotta think about this. What is a child going to understand? Is a child going to, if you got a 6-year-old, are they going to get the idea behind Gears of War? Really? Somebody tell me. Okay? You keep these stories, your premise is simple for games that you're aiming at children. Okay? You keep it simple. It's the KISS rule. Keep it simple, stupid. Okay? And where the hell did you get that bag you're wearing for a fucking shirt, woman? Bargain rack. You could have at least ironed it. Oh wait, I don't think Jonathan would have done it for you. He lets you go on camera in that thing. Oh God. Oh no, I can't even look now. Ugh. If you're gonna go on camera for something that you've got paid $168,000 for, you might at least want to try and dress the fucking part. Come on. Oh, he's gonna get to see it again. He's gonna get to see it. And that is also true. A child does, Richard, thank you. A child doesn't understand sexual behavior. They don't care. Okay? I have a 6-year-old. He doesn't give a shit. He knows that's a girl, but that's about anything else? He didn't care. He has no reason to care. He won't care for another 4 or 5 years, hopefully longer. Okay. All right. Moving on from the eye thing. Oh, and we won't talk about your big ass hoop earrings. We'll do that when we get in the 3 videos from now when we get to Miss Male Character. I'm gonna hang you from your own petard on that one, woman. Just wait.
The ill-fated princess appears in 14 of the core Super Mario Bros. Platformer games, and she's kidnapped in 13 of them.
Okay, what's your problem? What is your problem with her being kidnapped consistently? Again, we're aimed at children here. You're not talking. We're not aiming Super Mario Brothers at you, Anita. We're aiming it at the boys and girls between the ages of 6 and about 12.
The North American release of Super Mario Bros. 2 in 1988 remains the only game in the core series in which Peach is not kidnapped.
Nope, she's a playable character, and it was originally designed as Doki Doki Panic. It was released in Japan as Doki Doki Panic because Super Mario Bros. 2 in Japan was another set of levels just like Super Mario Bros. And Doki Doki Panic was its own thing. Nintendo bought the rights to Doki Doki Panic and then sent it here. Okay, and Super Mario Brothers 2.
Every time that they show that heart representing love, she takes issue. If you go back, you'll see she starts ranting and whining and bitching when they finally get together.
Yeah.
She takes issue with that.
I'm not sure why. I mean, well, okay, yeah, I am kind of sure why.
It's a happy ending. The damsel, her perceived damsel in distress, got rescued, and they are happy together.
Well, she is actually a sex negative. She's actually a sex negative feminist to start with.
Yes.
Sex work, transsexual. She's not thrilled with that, either of them, and she has said it. And she has said as much, although in some cases not directly.
I think that from her last video to the first one, she's wearing a plaid shirt. On her last video, she was actually wearing a very feminine blouse. It's a huge advance in her attitude in her videos.
Well, see, and here's the thing. The thing with the plaid shirts bore people. Really. It means that we can't, she's wearing what's in effect a burlap sack.
It's not only this. It's not only this. This is a lesbian thing.
Well, it's been done intentionally. I'm just not sure why they let her wear that undersized wrinkled thing. Because really, what it's doing is
she's doing it on purpose. She's doing it on purpose to the feminine part out of her, to degenderize her.
Yeah, and then she gets these big ass hoop earrings on her head. It draws everything to her face, and then you want to heave as soon as you hear her talking. All right, moving on.
And also the only game in which she's a playable character. Though it should be noted, it wasn't originally created to be a Mario game at all. The game was originally released in Japan under a completely different title called Yumi Kojo Doki Doki Panic, which roughly translates to Dream Factory Heart Pounding Panic. Nintendo of America thought that the original Japanese release of Super Mario Bros. 2 was too difficult and too similar to the first game, so they reskinned and redesigned.
Reskinned and redesigned. No, they actually rebuilt it from the gameplay. But that's just me being a picky bastard. Nintendo America was correct in thinking that it was going to be Super Mario Brothers 2 wouldn't be really well received as at that point because it was very similar to the first Super Mario Brothers. It released much later as Super Mario Brothers Lost Levels and did gangbusters on nostalgia. Okay, but a lot of U.S. parents would not have bought Super Mario Brothers 2, the Japanese release of Super Mario Brothers 2, because it looked just like the other one. They wouldn't have known the difference, and therefore it said, well, why did we waste our money buying the same thing? Okay, they were gauging the parents, not the kids, and the kids were the ones that were going to play it because at that point, adults that played video games were creepy fuckers in the eyes of everyone. Okay, especially if you're going to sit at home on the couch with a video game console. If you were in the arcade, you were probably okay. You just had enough money that you could get away. But actually, Richard, she doesn't consider that particular game part of the main line, and she'll get into that in a little while. I don't remember if it's this video or the next video, but she does actually cover that game. Not that she played it, she stole that footage too.
And Doki Doki Panic to star Mario and Luigi instead. However, the Japanese game already had 4 playable characters. So the designers opted to include Toad and the Princess to fill the 2 remaining slots, building directly on top of the pre-existing character models. So really, if we're honest,
no, they replaced the sprites.
Peach is kinda accidentally playable in this one.
What? No! They actually did that on purpose. People asked for a playable Peach.
Still, she had the awesome ability to float for short distances, which came in really handy, especially in the ice levels. Sadly, Peach has never been a playable character again in the main franchise. Even with newer games that feature 4-player options like the new Super Mario Bros. Wii and Wii U, the princess is still excluded from the action.
Again, because your audience is mostly going to be male, and I dare you to gender a fucking Toad. Please. How do you know that yellow Toad or that blue Toad is male? You don't. You can't. There's not a way to do that. Why? Because the only thing that differentiates them is bloody color. And for a mushroom, one would expect that. Actually, that's another interesting thing. As far as mushrooms go, they are both male and female. They throw off spores that connect with other spores and do the thing. So, or just fall down on the ground and create clones. So guess what?
She's been replaced with another Toad instead, as to allow Nintendo to force her back into the damsel role again and again.
Again, who is Mario aimed at?
Mhm.
Peach does of course appear in many spin-offs such as the Mario Party, Mario Sports, and Mario Kart series, as well as the Super Smash Bros. Nintendo Universe crossover fighting games. However, all of these spin-offs...
But see, the thing is, she kicks ass in those fighting games. Damn, Peach is properly played. Peach will kick the crap out of just about anything coming.
Fall well outside of the core Super Mario series of platformers. She is the star of only one adventure, and we'll get to that a little later. One way to think about Damsel's characters is via what's called the subject-object dichotomy.
Okay, she's going to go into a little bitty lecture here about subject-object dichotomy and how these things cannot be the same, cannot actually be the same thing on some level or another. If you are not a subject, you're an object. Period. That is the way she does that. Except that I could probably, if I really try hard enough, I could probably come up with somebody as a subject and an object. Oh wait, that's for here in just a couple of minutes. We're gonna take a break on this video here, and I'm gonna show you some gameplay footage I took of another game where the main character is in fact both subject and object.
In the simplest terms, subjects act, and objects are acted upon. The subject is the protagonist, the one who the story is centered on and the one doing most of the action. In video games, this is almost always the main playable character and the one from whose perspective most of the story is seen. So the damsel trope typically makes men the subject of narratives while relegating women to the role of object. This is a form of objectification because as objects, damseled women are being acted upon, most often becoming or reduced to a prize to be won, a treasure to be found, or a goal to be achieved. The brief intro sequence accompanying many classic arcade games tends to reinforce the framing of women as a possession that's been stolen from the protagonist.
Little montage here. Little montage action.
The hero's fight to retrieve his stolen property then provides the lazy justification for the actual gameplay.
Okay, there's that eye thing again. So let's try that again, Anita. But we're just getting to the fun part here. Women are possessions. Well, that's because that's only because you just said so. Are we not allowed to value people because they're people? Are we not allowed to go rescue a woman because she's female? Or because the big bad male vampire decided he wanted that particular female for a bride? Are we not allowed to do that? Can we have a show of hands here? How many people say we're not allowed to do that? All right, just you with the eyes.
At its heart, the damsel trope is not really about women at all. She simply becomes the central object in a competition between men, at least in its traditional incarnations. I've heard it said that in the game of patriarchy, women are not the opposing team, they are the ball.
Okay, famous last words, Anita. Let me show you the ball. And I'm just going to switch windows here real fast, like, where to go, oh, no. I'm just going to minimize this here real quick. This is Corpse of Discovery. And this is actually from a live stream I did a few nights ago. Okay. Now, check this out. This is actually going to take a little while. Hey, how you doing, Jax? We just got to Anita telling us that that women are not actually participants. They're the ball. They're not actually the players. They're the ball. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to actually turn this. All right. The options. Option is. Now, don't mind me talking over this here because, again, it was a live stream, and I don't happen to have any other footage of this handy. But I did actually keep quiet while the stupid thing was talking. A little further ahead here. Full screen off.
Of his loving family, we aren't disclosing a name yet. We will continue to do everything possible to better understand.
I'd rather like represent myself, actually, Jack.
Can you say what went wrong?
Look, the Corpse of Discovery have had a nearly perfect track record of safety. We believe he came out of stasis and the shuttle reached the planet, but we don't have a landing status. Yes.
Can a rescue shuttle be dispatched?
Probably not.
Look, I can't really get into that, but it isn't as simple as just sending a shuttle from one of the nearby.
There were several of them, actually.
The Major was aware of the risks and would respect the rescue protocol. We are following.
We're actually going to see Final Fantasy 15 coming up this. Here, shut up, me. We're supposed to be a Final Fantasy 8. Come on, shut up, me. I don't recall seeing it. Final Fantasy 9 was okay. Come on. See here? Here's the bit where they make it clear that okay, will last an expert for quite a while. Watch this. They must have a long mission plan. Hey, main gun, what's going on? Now, watch this here. Oh, no, that's the objective. Don't want to go there yet. Yeah, no, there are people that might have a message from home. First, see if there's a message. Shut up, me. I don't want to, but wow, I'm chatty. Okay. Observe. We're gonna go over here. We're gonna touch this panel. That's it. That's the family. There's your message. Look.
Hey, you just left Earth an hour ago, but we wanted to leave a message, so there was one for you when you get there. We miss you. We all love you and want you home as soon as possible. Really not sure if this was all worth it. Anyway, the kids want to say hi.
Hey, Dad, we miss you. Don't worry about us. I'll take good care of everyone until you get home. Daddy.
Okay. Now it has been made very clear at this point that our protagonist is male. Okay. Now, according by Anita's statements here, he is the subject. He is the protagonist. He exists. We can prove that he exists because we're walking around as him.
Today, so we miss you. Always be our best little pumpkin. Miss you, Daddy.
200 years, no former USA exploration party was more famous, and no former USA expedition leaders were more instantly
difficult. Once I
Back just a hair.
prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
A little bit more.
To start this mission, we need to find the cargo that contains the mapping.
Okay. I'm gonna go out. We're gonna. Yeah. I can do more research myself just playing the fucking games. And I got footage of this one on purpose. Come on, stop it with the buffering. Ah, this is what I get for relying on YouTube. I'm gonna make this full screen here for a second so you guys can see. This is a sort of walking simulator actually. Sort of a big pretty desert planet. Okay. It's what happens. It's the way they chose to do the rest of this that actually got to me, and what makes it relevant. Really, people? That's not what I want. Okay, there we go.
Hello, I am the Ava software version 71.
Okay.
I am here to help you complete the parameters of your mission. Opening mission file. Mission designation Artemis. Retrieving mission and personal files. Greetings, Major. As you are aware, this is a planetary mapping assignment. The research you are assisting with is extremely valuable to the Corps. To start this mission, we need to find the cargo that contains the mapping canisters. Thank you for allowing me to assist you today. Ava OS version 71 is a proprietary software system owned by the Corps of Discovery. Piracy will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Now, she spends the rest of this first mission on being a snarky twit. We're actually headed for the final marker here. I think this is where we put the last marker down. Well, certain of it, matter of fact. Yes.
Might I remind you, Lady, your family is counting on you to do a good job. Please get back to the mission.
Okay, that's Ava pulling on the leash. This is actually what back.
Only one more marker to place on this pleasant and temperate diurnal cycle. The coordinates of these markers will provide the...
There was one more here. Wait, this isn't actually the last mark. My actual spot of dying, or what? Doesn't look like the base is over here. Don't think it's even in the right direction for the base.
perseverance under less than desirable conditions. Well done, Major. Unfortunately, my scan indicates there is no rescue team in the vicinity. I must conclude that my signal was not received and no rescue has been dispatched. This means that you are trapped here and there is no way for you to return home.
Oh,
As a
man.
policy, your family will be well compensated. Hopefully you are pleased that the sacrifice of your own life will give them a continued existence of comfort and style. Additionally, the Corps would surely want you to know that your loyalty, bravery and professional conduct will be an inspiration to many. Our mission is now complete, and my batteries are nearly fully drained. Goodbye, Major. It has been a pleasure to assist you.
Okay. Now, okay, it's not a one-way street. This man here is ultimately disposable in his entirety. Okay. He doesn't have an existence beyond this particular mission, and he has this female character running around beside him, yanking on his leash the entire friggin' way. The sad part of it is this wasn't even the game. There are several more worlds, and they all end more or less the same way. So, if you want to go check out the first couple, you are certainly welcome. It'll be there. It's there on the channel last Friday's overnight stream, midnight stream. And yes, she does need to go home and rethink her life. Actually, I don't think she can rethink her life anymore. I think she's pretty much toast. But this stunt here you have goes both ways. He is in distress. That radiation shield doesn't hold up for very long. Okay, he's in danger. He's out there, but Anita considers this normal. Okay, he's got the nagging female companion who will continue to bother him with all sorts of fucked up shit. And yeah, but ultimately, he's not the actor. He's being acted upon. He has been acted upon, and he has to make the best he can out of what he's going to do, despite the fact that failure is essentially guaranteed. So, how about we try that again, Anita? In the game of patriarchy, first you have to be able to prove patriarchy actually exists. We live in a very much gynocentric universe at the moment, and probably have been since the beginning. We as men protect our women because finding another woman is going to be a lot harder than protecting the one we have, taking that level of risk. Okay. And even if you were going to go out and raid somebody else's camp, there's no guarantee you wouldn't get hurt or killed.
But can you imagine how much bitching it would be if roles were reversed in this game? If it were a man sending the major whoever out there to be exposed to the radiation.
Okay. Now Anita might argue that since it's a man that sent him, and it's a man that gave him the mission, that if there's no woman involved here at all. But the problem with that is that Anita has no way to know that, and neither do I. Okay, I know what I've got here. I've got a female persona goading a male persona to do a job.
Yeah.
For which it is known that there is not going to be a return. This man is dead. The only
Yes.
thing he has going for him is that he might just be able to get some. He might be able to do some good while he's in the process of being dead. Okay, and that's all. That's all you got. There is no anything else. You're just there. You're stuck. And having the female thing that was doing his navigation just stand on him is actually not working here. So yeah, go figure. All right. There's some evidence against for you, just so you have that fixed in your little brain. Let's go back to this. We're just about the halfway point, so moving on.
So, for example, we can think of the Super Mario franchise as a grand game being played between Mario and Bowser, and Princess Peach's role is essentially that of the ball.
Okay, now she's taken this game of patriarchy thing, like it was Game of Thrones, and applied it directly to Mario, Peach, and Bowser. And while it looks that way, if you don't bother to look under it, you have to wonder why the fuck Bowser wants her. He can't breed with her, obviously. So there's something he wants, and the only way to get it and the only way to get that is to keep her under control until she gives it to him, which was actually a big thing in medieval times. You kidnap a ruler and hold them hostage, male or female, until they give you the thing that you want, usually their kingdom or some other such thing. If the PC was a woman, there would be a win for every world. Well, you know what? Honestly, yeah, that's a different issue. But that's kind of where we're at with this whole thing. She's not looking into why this might be. And as adults, we can think of how this might be, or for what reason, looking at historical context. She doesn't bother to contextualize any of it at all, in any way, shape, or form. And it gets even better later on. Okay? Yeah, Mario is out there to go rescue the princess to keep her kingdom safe. So he's actually working for all the people and not just her. Although for as many cakes as he gets from her, I'm surprised he's not 1,200 friggin' pounds. He can still jump at all.
The two men are tossing her back and forth over the course of the main series, each trying to keep and take possession of the damsel ball.
First off, you don't know that. First off, I have yet to see Mario try and restrict her movements in any way. In fact, if anything, he's being a little lax on the whole protecting the female part. Okay, this is actually Mario being incompetent as a hero, not Bowser being overly good at being a villain, or Mario and Bowser playing some fucked up game that they just made up. And she does, because that's all she's done the entire time. Okay? That's it. We actually just hit the halfway point. Okay. First off, Mario could probably make those moves around Bowser because Bowser's a big fucking turd. A big heavy thing with a great big shell on it. Think about that for just a moment. And grabbing a chunk out of Mario's sport to try and make your ball analogy look better is really fucking low. I mean, there's just no way. There's no defending that, actually. Okay, you're just right now. You're pushing your narrative to the point where it's about ready to break. And actually, that's a lie. It's already broken. The narrative is toast and has been for a while. But that's not the issue we're having here.
Even though
She's
Nintendo
pushing
certainly
and
didn't
pushing
invent
and
the
pushing
damsel
the
in
same
distress,
subject all over without getting the point. If she's being kidnapped, it's because she has a value.
Yes, she does. Princess Peach has a value. A, she's in charge. B,
And
she's apparently...
not because she happens to be a woman.
Well, if you're going to keep that many toads that happy for that long, you've got to be doing something right as an administrator and so you're not having a whole pile of rampant crime, hunger, disease, and all that other shit going down. You've got to be good at what you actually do. If you're not a fighter, if you're an administrator or not a fighter, then you're an administrator. You're not a fighter. Okay? Peach isn't the one in these games, wasn't the fighting type. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Everything is, what was the quote again? Oh, yeah, that's right. Everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out. This is a direct quote from Anita.
Yeah.
Okay. She could find sexism, racism, and homophobia in a slug crawling across the fucking yard, I swear.
Even though Nintendo certainly didn't invent the damsel in distress, the popularity of their Save the Princess formula essentially set the standard for the industry. The trope quickly became the go-to motivational hook for developers as...
Okay, first off, the developers besides Nintendo still had the same goddamn problem of limited amount of space to do things like text or voice. In fact, they couldn't do voice almost at all. Getting a really tinny sort of was about the best you were going to get in terms of voice. Simply because the sound chips wouldn't handle it. They could do music, but they couldn't. But replicating human voice, that was kind of hard. Especially in the 8-bit era. Wizards and Warriors, that was another NES game. And I forget off the top of my head who did it. But again, you had Mario that did really, really, really well, and we had lots and lots of platformers for exactly that reason. But why the hell are you going to go to the other end? Well, of course she's going to go for the high-profile stuff because that's what's going to get attention, Richard.
She gets attention. If she goes for something that nobody's talking about, nobody will give her attention.
And that's what and unfortunately, that's what she's getting because we actually have to talk about this. Really wish we didn't.
It provided an easy way to tap into adolescent male power fantasies.
Okay. My sister was actually better at this game than I was. She actually enjoyed the platforming. I thought the platforming and the gravity physics in this game were crap, and the ones for Iron Sword were worse. And yeah. You could have replaced that one. Probably could have replaced him with a sword wandering around, and been just as effective. You could have done the same thing for both characters. In fact, they didn't have to be people at all, and people were kind of expensive in terms of memory space. Okay, but there's still more to it than that. Again, the trope is easily identified. This particular motif, not trope. Motif is easily identified by damn near everybody all over the fucking planet. If you're trying to sell to as wide an audience as possible, you do something that is going to be easily understood regardless of language.
In order to sell more games to young straight boys and men.
Again, you're talking about young straight boys and men. You're not honestly. You weren't even gonna sell them to them. You're gonna get those kids to ask their mothers to get these games, because those are the people. Because it's mom that usually holds the purse strings. Okay, dad doesn't have time to go shopping and generally doesn't have the inclination. Mom will go shopping, and if you can convince mom that this game is okay, then generally you would get it. I know I had to do that when it was Atari games, way back in the 1970s and early 80s. But by the time these games came up, I was a teenager and I had my own damn money. I could go buy what the fuck I wanted. Okay, actually, 1993, I was an adult. I could buy anything I fucking well pleased. So, 1993, I was 18. Yeah, about that. Is that right? No, that's wrong. I was 21. Sorry, brain death. Math. Okay, that is my epic math fail for the day. Okay, I was 21 in 1993. I could buy what I pleased when I pleased. I was actually a member of active duty military at that time. Okay, this is about young adolescent males. I was not an adolescent, and I didn't buy this game because it was a beat 'em up sort of game, and I wasn't a big fan of them. I did, however, have a copy of Phantasy Star and Phantasy Star 2. Matter of fact, I got a copy of Phantasy Star 3 while I was there, and when Phantasy Star 4 released in 1995, I bought it too.
Please help me, please!
Throughout the 80s and 90s, the trope became so prevalent that it would be nearly impossible to mention them all. There were
But I can name a number of them that weren't. Notice how she's actually skipped over the Metroid series. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Which is more believable, a powerful male knight or hero, or a powerful female one. You don't have very many examples of women in fighting roles prior to, well, just about now, actually. Anita has not touched Final Fantasy VII. That I know. Well, she did, but not until much later. She did actually go about busting on Tifa's outfit a couple of times, I believe.
Literally hundreds of examples showing up in platformers, side-scrolling beat-em-ups, first-person shooters.
Or no, it was women in background decoration that she did that with, and that was a big two-part thing.
And role-playing games alike.
Okay, first off, by the time Final Fantasy IV showed up here in the U.S., and it had a solid female character that stayed in most of the game, even if she was not the protagonist. She's in fact the protagonist's love interest. Her damsel in distress moment, such as it was, is that she was sick, and he had to go find the thing that could be used to cure her. She actually almost completely dismisses Tifa's time period as the protagonist of Final Fantasy VII, which is even worse.
Let's take a quick moment to clear up some common misconceptions about this trope. As a plot device, the damsel in distress is often grouped with other separate tropes, including the designated victim, the heroic rescue, and the smooch of victory.
Okay, first off, motif, extension, thing. Okay. Let's listen to that one again, just one more time, just so we have this fixed in our little brains.
Let's take a quick moment to clear up some common misconceptions about this trope. As a plot device, the damsel in distress is
motif
often grouped with other separate tropes, including the designated victim.
You made that up.
The heroic rescue and
the heroic rescue is a separate motif that is generally found within the damsel in distress motif, although it is actually much more general.
And the smooch of victory,
which is what you would expect from a person that has just been rescued from some sort of dire peril. Okay, that is actually our fucking biology, woman. You show affection to the person. You show affection to the person who just rescued you from whatever shit you were in, because this person is automatically strong enough to protect you for the next little while until you get to some place where you're more secure. Thank you.
However, it's important to remember that these associated conventions are not necessarily a part of the damsel in distress trope itself. So the woman in question may or may not play the victim role for the entire game or series, while our brave hero may or may not be successful in his rescue attempt.
Okay. People failing? That does happen.
All that is really required to fulfill the damsel in distress trope is for a female character to be reduced to a state of helplessness from which she requires rescuing by a typically male hero for the benefit of his story arc.
Okay. First off, who said it was necessarily about his story arc? It could very easily be about her, and you're just not fucking seeing it. The Legend of Zelda is actually fairly good about this. Yes, you have to go rescue the Zelda, but especially in later games, they tell a lot more of Zelda's story. And in the earliest games, we didn't have enough space for a story to begin with, so a base premise is all we could really afford inside of a little bitty Nintendo cartridge. So again, where's the sun shining in this bullshit? Okay, when the technology improved enough to be able to include more story, for example, A Link to the Past, we saw Zelda's story being told in the background while Link is busy making all the actions. Most of the later games are also way more Zelda's story than they ever are Link's. Link is a faceless sort of minion thing, whose entire purpose is to fix whatever's gone wrong in Hyrule this time. Usually at the behest of Zelda. So, did I miss something here? Did I miss the point someplace? Okay. And actually, that's actually not entirely true. There are ways to do that, but you have to have clear chains of command, and you have to have officers and you really need representation on the field of both male and female officers if you're really going to integrate a combat team. Yep. Okay. So let us move on here.
This brings us to the other famous Nintendo princess. In 1986, Shigeru Miyamoto doubled down on his damsel in distress formula with the NES release of The Legend of Zelda. This was the first in what would become one of the most beloved action-adventure game franchises of all time.
Again, you had a limited amount of space. And story was not a thing that you could do a lot of. Okay, it was most of what they could do to put in. It's dangerous to go alone. Here, take this. Okay, and note that that's almost all of the entire game.
The Legend of Zelda continues.
Find the crystals. Rescue the princess.
Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, Nintendo. Now you're playing with power.
Over the course of more than a dozen games spanning a quarter century, all of the incarnations of Princess Zelda have been kidnapped, cursed, possessed, turned to stone, or otherwise disempowered at some point.
Okay. First off, Zelda is still very much in charge, even in absentia most of the time. Her people all adore her. She's almost exactly the same as Peach in this respect. Okay, but again, you're just looking at the surface and not looking at the undertones. Okay, this is Zelda's story. All of this. Okay, whether Zelda is actually present or not, this is Zelda's story more than it's ever been Link's.
Zelda.
Okay. Nice montage. Okay. All right. All right. Let's get back to the video here, folks. We got about 9 minutes left on this, and then some more discussion time. We'll talk about the Marine Corps and gender integration later.
Zelda has never been the star in her own adventure, nor been a true playable character in the core series.
Again, with this core series thing, and that actually continued into the recent game, into the game that they announced at E3. There's big kerfuffle because because Zelda will not be playable, and there is not a female version of Link that you can choose from. And the reason for this is actually fairly simple. They actually have a formula. The formula works. It works really well, and screwing with that formula is a great way to tank a franchise. So anyway, where was I? Oh, right. It's a big hullabaloo. Okay, the idea here is that if they made a male Link, they could make a female Link. Just put tits on it or something. No, women walk differently. Their skeletons they're built differently from the ground up. You can tell easily by looking at the pelvis or the head or the skull of in terms of remains. You can look at the pelvis or skull and tell that a particular creature is male or female. Okay. Not that I think that Anita really knows what the difference is at this point. I don't know that she knows any of this, but that's beside the point.
I was a little bit busy posting
I noticed.
a part of a blog post. It's pertinent to what Anita is saying. Why most of these roles of the rescuer are male and not female, and when in distress, who is in distress in this kind of situation is the woman. It's actually what is what was shown in the study was in the Marines, that the military combat units draw their strength from unit cohesion, not diversity. The U.S. Marine Corps Gender Integration Study, which is the most comprehensive research ever conducted on this issue, reported last year, that all male combat teams outperformed mixed gender teams on a wide variety of measures of speed, endurance, totality, negotiating obstacles, and evacuation of casualties. The female Marines studied were physically fit, but they nevertheless experienced injuries at twice the rate of male Marines.
Yes,
Combat
they do.
troops
That's because
fight
there are
in
some
small
interesting shit that can go
fight
wrong.
in small teams where the loss of one member can be fatal to all. Relying on its study proving that mixed gender units are less effective, the Marine Corps requested permission to keep some combat roles male only. Obama's Secretary of Defense not only denied that reasonable request, but ordered the Corps to require Marines to undergo training to erase, in quotes, unconscious bias and clamp down on potential misgivings about women in combat.
And when we start losing people at 3 times the rate we do now, then the Marine Corps is going to bring that study up again. Now, moving on.
Mm-hmm.
However, it must be said that not all damsels are created equal, and Zelda is occasionally given a more active or integral role to play than her counterpart in the Mushroom Kingdom.
That's because it's Zelda's story, you stupid bint.
Unlike Peach, Zelda is not completely defined by her role as Ganondorf's perpetual kidnap victim, and in a few later games, she even rides the line between damsel and sidekick.
Except that if I remember correctly, in Wind Waker, she was actually in charge for a while. Link was the sidekick.
Remember, the damsel in distress's plot device is something that happens to a female character, and not necessarily something a character is from start to finish.
Except that you've just been arguing the opposite.
Yeah.
You just tanked your own fucking argument, Anita. You've been arguing exactly the opposite of that. Wow. Okay. It doesn't matter how long she's in jeopardy for. Apparently now it doesn't matter how long she's been in jeopardy for. As long as she's been in jeopardy at any time, she's still a damsel in distress, and we're still bad people. Okay. She spends a lot of time hacking. She spends this entire miniseries of 3 episodes hacking at writers. And as a writer myself, including for video games, I take exception, because that's not what we do.
Once in a while, she might be given the opportunity to have a slightly more active role in facilitating the hero's quest, typically by opening doors, giving hints, power-ups, and other helpful items.
Okay. If she's not a fighter, she's not a fighter. She's an administrator. She's the treasury. She can help this guy in every other way. Everything happens to and that's the other thing. Everything happens to a fictional character. Any fictional character. It's the writer that's actually in charge here. Okay? And she's going to go into kind of a death of the author thing in a while anyway. I think it's actually a couple videos down the line.
I call this variant on the theme the helpful damsel.
Okay, now it's stopped being a trope and got turned into a theme. Okay, it's all been a motif the entire way. Helpful damsel. Well, okay, you're not helping your argument here, Anita. You're really not. You're just making shit up as you go along. You pulled that crap completely out of your ass. Okay, again, this is Zelda's story. It's not Link's story. Link could be replaced. We could swap Link and Ganondorf, and it'd still go the same way. Without Zelda, you're screwed.
Indeed, Zelda is at her best when she takes the form of Sheik in Ocarina of Time and Tetra in the Wind Waker.
Yep. Helpful damsel, sure.
In Ocarina of Time, Zelda avoids capture for the first 3 quarters of the game. Disguised as Sheik, she is a helpful and active participant in the adventure, and she's shown to be more than capable.
So, where's the problem? Where is the problem here? I fail to see an issue.
However, as soon as she transforms back into her more stereotypically feminine form of Princess Zelda, she's captured within 3 minutes.
Again, she was hiding because she knew that she knew this was going to happen the second she turned up. So that was actually part of the story. I still don't see the problem.
Literally,
she was disguised. She dropped the disguise. She was recognized. Oh.
And the second the magic Zelda watching for Pixie spotted her undisguised pop up. She said, "Oh, there it is!" And Ganondorf went, "Zoom." That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
If you're going to define her as the damsel in distress in this way, she's been the damsel in distress the whole time, from front to end. See, the thing is, if she has to hide who she is in order to be, and that's kind of where she's going with that main gun. She seems to think that this is where that it's a problem just because there's a dick on the dance floor. Okay.
I timed it.
Yeah.
She timed it.
Her rescue then becomes central to the end of Link's quest.
Okay, so that makes it the second half of Act 2. Okay. Act 2 into Act. See, actually, this is the transition. Really, it's the transition from Act 2 to Act 3. Because the first 2 acts, you have Link growing into his role. You have a chunk of thing where he's trying to get all his shit together, and then his help goes away, and he has to go rescue the help. Well, fine. This is a friend. This is somebody he spent enough time with this person. He should care about this person by now. What the fuck are we? Why the fuck are we waiting for? And her reasons for doing what she did are perfectly valid. So again, you're just pissed off because Lincoln's dead.
Similarly, in The Wind Waker, Tetra is a feisty and impressive young pirate captain. But as soon as she's revealed to be and transformed into her more stereotypically feminine form of Princess Zelda, she's told that she's no longer allowed to accompany Link on the adventure because it's suddenly too dangerous for her.
That's because that's Dad, and that's not the thing that you do. But Dad actually caught you, and now you're busted. You've been grounded to your fucking room, young lady, because you shouldn't have been a fucking pirate all this time.
She's ordered to wait in the castle, which she does until she's eventually kidnapped, while waiting obediently in the same spot. It is noteworthy that in the very last stage of the boss battle, she does help Link fight Ganondorf for a few brief minutes, which is a refreshing change. However, the next time Tetra's incarnation appears in 2007's The Phantom Hourglass, she's kidnapped immediately during the intro. Later, she's turned to stone and then kidnapped for a second time.
I got nothing. I really don't. What do you got? Catherine?
She is in the role of the princess. As a princess, she is not a warrior. Of course, she cannot join as a princess.
Go ahead.
I don't know. Ask your son. He will have the answer. She's a princess. That's what he will tell you. She's a princess.
Again, you're aiming this at kids, not adults. Right back to what Richard said earlier.
She's kidnapped immediately during the intro.
It's something so obvious. She's not in any of her disguises. She's in her role of the princess.
Okay. And again, you're still looking at this point. You're still looking at the limitations applied to a handheld game console in this case. Specifically, the Nintendo Dual Screen. There's a limit to what you can do.
Later, she's turned to stone and then kidnapped for a second time. It's disappointing that even with her moments of heroism, Zelda is still damseled. She's removed from the action, pushed aside, and made helpless at least once in every game she appears in.
That's not true. That is decidedly untrue, because like Peach, Zelda properly played is one of the best characters in the Super Smash Bros. Franchise. She's had a couple of her own adventures on non-official consoles. There's a lot here that you're overlooking. You're intentionally overlooking.
Anita herself pointed out that there are lots of things that Zelda can do.
And does
that
do.
She helps. She does do, but not as a warrior.
In fact,
it's not her role.
Well,
it's not her role.
See, here's the thing. Anita should be absolutely thrilled because if she wants to compare it to Super Mario Brothers, this is actually progress of a sort. When you think about it, she's looking at every negative connotation and hasn't actually stopped and thought about this at all in any way, shape, or form. She's not digging into the other writing and all the story that's going on behind the scenes. She's not actually looking at the idea that this would even be progress of a sort. Oh, no, she was captured. it's all we're automatic. Everybody that had anything to do with this is now automatically wrong. And how do you do that? That was a commercial aimed at U.S. audiences. Okay. It's aimed strictly at U.S. audiences. Okay. I don't know where she dug up that old fossil, but she needs to be slapped with it. No, most princesses aren't uber trained combat commandos. Zelda is actually really good at when she does do this. She's actually really good at it. But again, she's talking about the more feminine form, which gets kidnapped quite a lot, and just no.
This brings us to one of the core reasons why the trope is so problematic and pernicious for women's representations.
Problematic and pernicious, there's those two words again. You're repeating those words and hoping we take them in, and really you're just throwing out words because they look big and make you sound smart, because that's not the way this works. The world doesn't work that way. It's not problematic or pernicious because you said so. It's problematic or pernicious because there actually is a problem going on in this game somewhere, and you're not telling me what that problem might be or why it's actually a problem. You've not defined your terms properly, Anita, and as an academic, you should fucking well know better. You have a master's degree in social and political thought. You should have this information and know how to use it. Okay?
But you know perfectly well the power of using big, complicated words.
I do, as a matter of fact. I know I've been guilty of it more than a few times. But you know what?
Yeah.
Usually it's because I know what the fuck the words mean, and if it's going to be something that most people wouldn't know, then and there's any question of what that might be, I actually do. I stop and explain what I mean by terms. Okay, problematic. Well, okay, we know it has the word problem in it. Well, obviously that's got a lot to do with what it's supposed to be. Except that the actual word means something a bit different from problem.
Yes, problematic is one thing. She is using an adjective in the place of a noun.
Exactly right. The other thing is and then we have the word pernicious, which is frequently used as a synonym for evil. But of course, that's not exactly that's not its purpose either. So again, you're using words you don't know what they mean, or if you do know what they mean, it means you're intentionally using them incorrectly. Okay. Pernicious is actually a pervasive sort of evil.
Yes.
Okay. And you could have said that. Or actually, you could have even put that in simpler words for everyone. But you use the word you use because it makes you sound intelligent and it enables you to use command language. They're just going to assume because they don't necessarily know what that word means. They're going to check your context, mentally check your context, to see if you've got something else in there that maybe you get a little bit better. They get a little bit better grip on it, and then they're just going to take it at face value. They assume you know what it means because you've used it, and then you've got a little mindless slave running around. But you're using an aggressive voice the whole way through, and that's not kosher.
The damsel in distress is not just a synonym for weak. Instead, it works by ripping away the power from female characters.
You mean like that one in the middle from one of the Phantasy Star Gaiden games that, well, yeah, she's not only well-dressed and female, but she actually has an active role in the story for quite a while.
Even helpful or seemingly capable ones. No matter what we're told about their magical abilities, skills, or strengths, they're still ultimately captured or otherwise incapacitated and then must wait for rescue.
Because most women don't have the upper body strength to bend iron bars or shatter crystal. I don't know a lot of men that do. So again, where are we going with this?
Distilled down to its essence, the plot device works by trading the disempowerment of female characters for the empowerment of male characters.
Bullshit. This is bullshit on a stick. And again, first thing you're doing is you're making the assumption that whatever woman you're talking about was empowered in the first place. Most princesses, for example, have been under the thumb of so many people for so long, trying to learn how to do things like rule kingdoms, that they don't have the skill. They don't have the skills to bend iron bars and shatter fucking crystal. Okay, most of them did. Most princesses were trained to assist somebody else to do the grunt administrative work and the heavy lifting for paperwork, so that the king could actually sit on high and make whatever decrees were necessary. So again, you're looking at, and if she did by some measure become queen on high, then she probably had a prince consort that was trained to do the same fucking thing. In fact, that was the most equal sort of education you could freaking get at during the time when princes and princesses were actually a going concern. Yeah, sorry about that, KNL. There's nothing I can do about that part. Although I will damn sure try. And I need to manage to avoid the eye thing again. Yep, in a cell. There are big iron bars on it. Guess what? And she grabbed this to make the point, to drive her point home, instead of actually looking at the freaking game. So about guarantee she didn't play it. I'm almost certain somebody else took this with their freaking camcorder. But again, you're playing on the emotions of people that would want to rescue such a character. Okay.
Let's compare the damsel to the archetypal hero myth, in which a typically male character may occasionally also be harmed, incapacitated, or briefly imprisoned at some point during their journey.
That doesn't make him the dude in distress, does it? Well, by your definition of the damsel, it would, believe it or not. So if I remember correctly, this particular sequence ends with Zelda rescuing him. And I remember Ocarina was Ocarina of Time, it was Majora's Mask. You had the female character that was Link's companion through most of the game. And I forget that character's name off the top of my head. It's been a while since I played that game. Digging him out of a freaking cell. Or no, that wasn't that one. It wasn't Majora's Mask. It was crap. Now I don't remember the name. Not Skyward Sword. The one that came immediately before Skyward Sword. Here's GoldenEye.
In these situations, the character relies on their intelligence, cunning, and skill to engineer their own escape.
That's better.
With or without help. The whole ketchup thing, yeah, that was the thing. Besides which, if you're the player character, you're having to wait for somebody to bail you out of jail, then why you don't even have a game. In fact, there is actually a case where this thing where the whole thing gets reversed in the opening moments of Phantasy Star 3. The prince has to watches his bride to snatch out of the wedding, and rather than let him start a war, his father puts him down in the dungeons. He is then rescued. He has to look around. He has to look around himself for a little bit. And once he's armed, he is rescued by a female character that wants to jump his bones. She actually comes through and helps him later. Okay. And unfortunately, the whole 9 yards was fairly elaborately staged to get the main character to do a thing that he wouldn't otherwise have done. Namely, thaw out a chunk of world that was dying.
Or, just punching a hole in the prison wall works too. The point is, they're ultimately able to gain back their own freedom. In fact, that process of overcoming the ordeal is an important step in the protagonist's transformation into a heroic figure.
Okay. First off, the hero's journey has been long established. It has been that way. It has been that way forever. I mean, that goes all the way back to Assyria and Mesopotamia. You have got to do better, Anita. Really, you do.
A damseled woman, on the other hand, is shown as incapable of escaping the predicament on her own, and then must wait for a savior to come into it for her.
That's her decision. It really is, ultimately. But I don't see Peach breaking those bars anytime soon. Especially held in a little bitty cage up above what looks like it's a lava bed.
In this way, the damsel's ordeal is not her own. Instead, it's framed as a trial for the hero to overcome.
And again, if you don't have a trial for the hero to overcome, you don't have a game. Whether or not there's a goal, whether or not her freedom is a goal here is irrelevant. If there are no trials to overcome for whoever it is that happens to be in charge, that happens to be running around in the suit that day, then you don't have you aren't playing a game. But you don't even have a story without one. They could. I think they'd probably try it. Not that I think it would work really well.
Consequently, the trope robs women in peril from the opportunity of being the architects of their own escape.
Right. Because they're off-screen and staying put.
And therefore prevents them from becoming archetypal heroes themselves.
She knows how to be repetitive.
Okay. That is Zelda in a recolored version of Link's outfit with his sword and shield, and Peach in Mario's freaking overalls. That's all you got, and you had somebody Photoshop that. Okay? It's not about the men or the women. It's about what is actually going to drive a story. Okay? Because that's ultimately what it's about. It's a story. You have to tell a story, and you only have X amount of resources to do it in. Therefore, it's going to depend on what story you want to tell. Okay? Or even if you have space to tell a proper story, which a lot of early gaming didn't. Gaming is only now starting to emerge as a storytelling medium and not as a result of your bullshit.
Even if now there are other stories to tell, other kind of games to play with other kind of story arcs, and lots of other choices for people to make in what kind of in what kind of games they want to play. What's wrong with the hero? Unless you're building an empire, you are a warrior is a hero.
But then heroes can be mages, heroes can be troubleshooters. They can be anyone.
Yes, that's the point.
The hero is the person that steps up to do the job. And the guy in charge is the one that's actually doing something when everybody else is wondering what the hell's going on.
Heroes come in different forms. Come in different forms.
And she is concentrating on one type.
Yes, the one that is saving.
Might go on.
The one that is saving a woman that requires help, and she's labeling this kind of woman as a damsel in distress.
But what do you get?
Well,
but then what is she going to do when those roles are reversed? Because it has been done rather often, as a matter of fact.
Archetypal heroes themselves. Today, many old-school damsel games are being resurrected for modern platforms, services, and mobile devices, as publishers are in a rush to cash in on gaming nostalgia and capitalize on any recognizable characters from years gone by.
Okay, that is actually a common thing regardless of what you do. Old products coming back, not uncommon, especially when you talk about box goods.
For example, Sega's 1993 platformer Sonic CD, featuring a damseled Amy Rose, has been enhanced and made available for download on a wide variety of modern platforms.
What's your point? Sonic, in fact, has his own problems with Amy Rose.
Jordan Mechner's famous character.
Oh, and the other thing is Amy Rose becomes a playable character for most of the Sonic series after Sonic CD, and Sonic CD was actually not considered one of the better Sonic games. Okay, the mainline Sonic games included no female characters at all.
Tekka and Prince of Persia games, originally released for the Apple II home computer in the 1980s, have both seen modern HD remakes.
What's your point?
And the 1983 animated Laserdisc game Dragon's Lair, with ditzy Princess Daphne, has been ported to just about every system imaginable.
Please save me!
Yeah, Daphne is an idiot. We knew this. We know this going in. There's not a question here.
The cage is locked with a key. The dragon keeps it around his neck. To slay the dragon, use the magic sword.
Okay. Gotta realize who did that and when it was done. Okay. Cultures change over time. Yeah, she's kind of silly. She's got this whole silly blonde thing going on. But you know what? As a character, she was never intended to be alive. They took up most of the space trying to get dirt to animate properly. And it was, in fact, it was more or less a cartoon. But gamified.
Remember Pauline, damsel of the classic Donkey Kong arcade?
Absolutely, I remember her.
Well, she's also been revived. First in 1994's Donkey Kong for the Game Boy, and later in the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series for the Nintendo DS.
Again, so what?
Each game features a rehashing of the old excuse plot, with Pauline being whisked away by the giant ape during the opening credits.
That's the wrong hair color.
Yeah.
I don't know who the demo was for that game.
The now iconic opening seconds of the 1987 beat-em-up arcade game Double Dragon has Marion being punched in the stomach, thrown over the shoulder of a thug, and carried away. In several versions, her panties are clearly shown to the player while she's being abducted.
That's what she gets for wearing a really short skirt. Did the man force her into it? Probably not.
The game has been remade, re-released, and ported to dozens of systems over the past 25 years. ensuring that Marion will be battered and damseled for each new generation to enjoy. Most recently, Double Dragon Neon in 2012 reintroduced new gamers to this regressive crap yet again, this time in full HD.
Again, okay. Hey, look at that! We got a scantily clad woman over here. It was part of the gang. Again, the end result of this is so fucking what? Yeah, Pauline. Yeah, this particular character here, Marion, was not particularly smart. But you know, if you got to have some reason. Well, what are you going to do? Blow up the guy's car?
The pattern of presenting women as fundamentally weak, ineffective.
Oh, and the regressive crap thing. We don't talk about you and regressive.
Or ultimately incapable, has larger ramifications beyond the characters themselves and the specific games they inhabit.
Citation fucking needed.
We have to remember that these games don't exist in a vacuum.
They don't? It seems to me like people that... Actually, you're probably right. These violent video games... Gears of War went on sale. Halo went on sale, and you saw drops in violent crime rates. Wonder why.
They're an increasingly important and influential part of our larger social and cultural ecosystem.
Again, citation needed.
The reality is, this trope is being used in a real-world context where backward sexist attitudes are already rampant.
Catherine, do you want to feel this one?
I didn't get what you said. What you said.
Or ultimately incapable, has larger ramifications beyond the characters themselves and the specific games they inhabit. We have to remember that these games don't exist in a vacuum. They are an increasingly important and influential part of our larger social and cultural ecosystem. The reality is, this trope is being used in a real-world context where backward sexist attitudes are already rampant.
You want to take that
one? It doesn't work that way. We're talking about fiction. We are talking about games. She mixed up movies. She mixed up lots of things that have absolutely nothing to do, and culture. She wants some sort of. She wants to validate her. Oh, wow. I almost used the word logic. No. She wants to validate her point of view, uses some kind of twisted logic. She keeps using the word pernicious, but I think that the pernicious thing here, it's her thinking, because culturally, biologically, historically, this is what it is. She keeps leaving me speechless. That's the point with Anita. I watched this video of hers twice. This is the third time that I'm watching it, and I'm still speechless at her amazing stupidity, because she's trying to impose her point of view that may or may not be shared. I don't know how many other women share her point of view. Maybe there are men that share her point of view, but it doesn't have any basis on reality. She's trying to change reality. And I think that the best answer in reality is the fact that people keep buying and playing these games. People keep going to the movies, people keep buying the books and reading the books, and there is an audience for this because it reflects the reality. They are trying, they are doing their best or their worst, I don't know, to make a shift in our cultural system. I hope that they don't succeed. I think that we must do our best that they do not succeed.
Right.
But this is not what we have.
Okay. Now, Mangun has said something here, and Bacon Pope Shane backs this up a little bit. It says games make people violent, sexist, and actually we have loads of studies that say they don't make people violent, and in fact quite the opposite.
Yes, quite the opposite.
Okay. And Bacon Pope Shane here says lag makes me violent, not the games. Okay.
There
and
are studies.
Honestly, if you're going to be violent,
that
what would you rather be violent at? A bunch of polygons and pixels on a screen, or an actual human being, or dog, or cat, or what the fuck ever? Yep.
Actually, there is that I don't remember. There are studies that's being done at the very moment because of all the outrage over pornography that it's a little bit unrelated to this to today's subject, but she is onto that too. And the fact is, if pornography were to be banned, she doesn't understand that it actually would lead to an increase in what they scream the most, rape. The same thing.
If you ban a thing, it will be. If you ban a thing, it will happen more often. That's the way it works. You ban the pornography, people are going to get their jolly some other way.
Yes, people will find another way to get what they want.
They banned the booze by constitutional amendment here in the United States. What happened? Bunch of shit went down, and organized crime took a firm permanent hold. Now, we got about.
And the thing with video games, there are violent video games. But there are studies, not only one. There are studies that prove that it doesn't increase violence. Quite on the contrary, if a person that is prone to violence has an outlet to this violence, this person is less prone to act on it.
On violent impulses outside.
Yeah.
Unless they have other problems that are much more severe.
Yeah,
now, that being said,
yes. Then we are talking about mental issues. That's something different.
Video games have had a correlate. There was a study a while back that said that there was some mild correlation between violent video games and aggressive tendencies in men and boys after playing for about half an hour or so, and then that it actually passes within 5 or 10 minutes. So, yeah.
It's a sad fact that a large percentage of the world's population still clings to the deeply sexist belief that women as a group need to be sheltered, protected, and taken care of by men.
Except that that's what you guys are demanding right now. Anybody remember this thing called he for she? I remember it. Remember it very clearly.
Yeah.
Okay, we got just under 2 minutes left. Let's see how much more she can screw up.
The belief that women are somehow a naturally weaker gender is a deeply ingrained, socially constructed myth.
Okay. First off, you just lied to me.
Socially constructed myth.
Socially constructed myth. I'm sorry. I can lift and reach things that my wife cannot. And that's a thing. Okay? Women are in fact built differently from men, and you lift with your legs. Most women do not have the upper body strength to push, pull, or drag an object nearly as heavy as a man can. For example, and swinging a sword requires the ability to develop pectoral muscles, very heavy pectoral muscles, as opposed to a dagger or something else which doesn't require nearly as much effort. Okay. Now, when you do this, women actually have less body mass to deal with in the first place, which means a heavy sword built for a man is actually going to have an effect on a woman, because the first law of motion: for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. If I gave a 2-year-old a heavy blade and he swung it around the room, he's probably going to throw him.
Yeah.
Okay. But if I gave my wife the katana that I myself use from time to time in mock events and have some skill with, she's probably going to hurt herself. The damn thing is heavy. All right. So yes, physically we are very different sorts of creatures. Whether or not women are actually, some women are stronger than some men, but there's a reason that they separate sports by men's and women's, and why a transgender man went from the women's swim team from being the ultimate star of the women's swim team over to probably last place finisher in the men's team. There's a reason for this. That's actually a story I caught in a documentary a while back.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Actually, that Mengan, she's going to say that next.
Which of course is completely false. But the notion is reinforced and perpetuated when women are continuously portrayed as frail, fragile, and vulnerable creatures.
Okay, some women are in fact that way. A lot of women are trained that way from birth. You stop doing that, you'll stop having quite as much of a problem with it.
Just to be clear, I'm not saying that all games that use the damsel in distress as a plot device are automatically sexist or have no value.
Yes, you did, several times.
But it's undeniable that popular culture is a powerful influence in our lives.
And you're a pop culture critic. Right.
Popular culture.
And the damsel in distress trope, as a recurring trend, does help to normalize extremely toxic, patronizing, and paternalistic attitudes about women.
And how about the attitude you're having at gamers right now? You're being incredibly toxic. Just saying that thing. And your entire video.
She's talking about being patronizing. She's talking about gamers like some retarded males that will go on some sort of rampage and go treating women as a subset of the society and go raping or whatever. I don't know what she thinks that men will do. I don't know. Anita always manages to get me at loss.
Now, I grew up on Nintendo. I've been a fan of the Mario and Zelda franchises for most of my life.
We have no evidence this is you, where you are, when this is, nothing. Just we have a small girl playing game with a Super Nintendo controller in her hands. That's all we've got. And you didn't even turn the fucking Xbox controller on, or the PlayStation controller on in your freaking video. Yeah. Poster child for Dunning-Kruger. Pretty much, yeah.
And they'll always have a special place in my heart.
No, they won't. You told a college classroom full of people about a year and a half before you did this that you were not a gamer and that you had to learn a lot about gaming just to make this series.
As I'm sure is true for a great number of gamers out there.
That's why we're gamers.
But it's still important to recognize and think critically about the more problematic aspects, especially considering many of these franchises are as popular as ever.
Especially considering that you just spent the last 20 minutes of my life, 22 minutes and 31 seconds of my life, ripping me and others like me for taking a route that is easily communicated to your audience when you're dealing in what was considered a toy at the time. And once you have a formula that works, you don't screw with it too much, you're going to have problems.
And the characters have become worldwide icons.
Okay, not a problem.
The good news is that there's nothing stopping developers from evolving their gender representations and making more women heroes in their future games.
And they've been, and believe it or not, even by the time this video released, there were loads and loads and loads of female characters.
And even her last video that she released, she was bitching and whining about female characters in video games that are warriors. But what was her main objection? That these warriors were not decently dressed.
Yeah. So anyway, where was I? Oh, right. At the end of day, we have a whole pile of female characters going back 20 or 30 years. Easily that long. One of the earliest incarnations of games actually had a female protagonist. The first one that I know of to make it to a console market was for the Sega Master System, Phantasy Star, and that one had a female protagonist. That entire series had a lot of strong female characters in it. The Final Fantasy games, one of the members of the party in both 2 and 3 were female. There were several female characters in Final Fantasy 4. There were 2 of them for. By the end of the game, there were 2 of them in Final Fantasy 5. Final Fantasy 6 had a half dozen or so. Actually, it was about half the cast. Final Fantasy 7, we've got 1, 2, 3. We've got at least 3 good ones. Final Fantasy 8 had 4. Where the hell do I stop? Hell, I'm not even getting started. I'm actually just sticking to the role-playing games. I mean, Samus Aran, Samus Aran, Zelda, despite the fact you just painted her as a damsel, she's more than capable of doing she's more than capable of doing what she's trained for. Somebody actually put together a YouTube video not long after this came out. It was like 100 female characters. I mean, Jill Valentine.
We were looking this the other day, and you said that you took some notes.
Okay. We got Jill Valentine, Claire Redfield. You name it, we've got it somewhere. We've got women in all kinds of roles. But those don't tend to do as well as, say, a Gears of War. And the next Gears of War actually has female combatants on board. Because we actually saw trailer footage of that at E3. You know, the stupid is just jaw-dropping. Okay? The sheer ignorance is jaw-dropping.
It'd be great to finally see Zelda, Sheik, and Tetra as the protagonists of their own games.
Because those are the games that you want to see. You ignore all the other ones in favor of Peach and Zelda. Alright, Mr. Unique. You're 100% proof that God exists. I'll check it later. In the meantime, your ass is in timeout. Fine. You're gonna jump in here. I see what you did. You want to ban his ass too? Feel free. Oh, Manga is actually using nice words. All right. She's ignored all the female characters in video games. Like the nice lady that was in charge during Remember Me, Faith, and several others.
And not just mobile DS games, I'm talking full-on console adventures. Okay, so we've established that the damsel in distress trope is one of the most widely used gender cliches in the history of video games.
No, we haven't established shit, Anita. You just throw a bunch of shit and hope like hell that something would stick on your audience.
And has been core to the popularization and development of gaming as a medium.
No, it hasn't.
But what about more modern games? Has anything changed in the past 10 years?
Yes.
Well, stay tuned for part 2, where I'll be looking at more contemporary examples of the damsel in distress trope.
I don't wanna.
We'll look at all the dark and edgy twists and turns and see how the convention has been used and abused right up until today. Then we'll check out some games where developers have tried to flip the script on the damsel. I would like to extend it.
Okay. Alright, that thing that is over. Okay. So, discuss. If anybody wishes to join in, I will be more than happy to provide the link to do so. You're welcome to drop in and have a chat with us for a little bit anyway. We don't want to really go too much longer, but what do you got?
We are reaching 2 hours and a half. Already.
Yeah. So what do you got, Catherine? Any comment?
Yeah. It's very puzzling that she made actually 1 hour video discussing the damsels in distress issue, because it's just 20-something minutes first part video.
And there are 3 parts.
It's 3 parts, yes. So she spent 1 hour talking about a non-issue. So I think that we leave our final considerations after we finish with her. At this point, I think that it's just a lot of she uses a lot that classifier pernicious. I think that what she represents, what her brand of feminism, the social justice warriors, everything that they represent, this is pernicious.
Yeah.
And it's highly damaging to our society, because by saying that everything is sexist, they are creating a rift between men and women. And this damages the entire basis of our society, because men and women, when they are not together, the entire society collapses.
Well, is there anything you want to say to that face before anybody want to say anything to that face before we cut it off? I will take any requests. Lying, certainly. I don't know how much she'd be deluded, but she's most certainly lying, because rhetoric like this is what brings in money. And she has to be aware of that.
She received how much?
Well, she's already gotten more than $1.1 million just from the internet in general. And that's the stuff we can prove between her tax records and her backers. Then she might get all fat and unattractive and be able to fat shame us or be able to thin shame us. Ugh, like she could thin shame my ass. Damn.
I think that what she promotes, what the feminists of her brand promotes, what the social justice warrior promotes is very dangerous because it's the entire collapse of the society as it has been, and it's not about equality. It's not about anything like this anymore. And if men and women are drawn so apart that they are not even talking, oh well, good luck in furthering the society because nobody will be having children because nobody will be talking.
Pretty much my thought. Yeah. All right. So I think we're pretty much done here. But Bacon Pope Shane says, "Let her eat cake."
Yeah.
Famous last words of Louis XIV, if memory serves.
So,
All right. So I think we're going to wrap this up here, unless somebody wants to drop in. I want to thank you guys for coming. I know this probably isn't the best way to make videos. If we want some better videos, if we want to get this channel together and get things working a little better, unfortunately, we are going to need you guys' help for that. Right now, I'm trying to get a new computer built so I can start rendering again, and maybe start keeping up with some of the games that are coming out. Those things require a budget, and frankly, I don't have it. So do please rate, subscribe, share with your friends. If you like what we're doing here, then maybe consider the Patreon link or PayPal or even the Amazon wish list down at the bottom for the new computer. Anything I take in is going right back into the channel in some way, shape, or fashion. So that's kind of where we're at there. Actually, I have a witness for that. Oh, it was Marie Antoinette. I'm sorry. You were correct. Still famous last words. Yeah, my bad. All right. All right. Not a problem for you, main gun. Always happy to do your service. Yeah, guys, thanks for dropping by, and feel free to come back anytime. We will be doing these on Mondays at this point, barring any other sort of major emergency. And we're going to try and get back into some other content too while we're doing that. Of course, the games roundups are on Friday, and I do a weekly live or a nightly live stream Monday to Friday at midnight Pacific Standard.
Daddy.
Or Pacific Daylight Time it is now. So, thank you for dropping in, and let's make games fun again, shall we?